What's happening, everybody? This is Sir Ron, the Limo Mystic, and this is my latest chapter from my recent capers and hi-jinx out in Napa and other areas as the Limo Mystic. A lot of different stories. I hope you get some good buzz, some feel-good buzz. We need a little bit of good energy now with the way things are rolling. So, where do I begin? One of the recent ones, I was on this limo bus run where we picked up a family in Richmond, and they were going to, it's Richmond, California, they were going to Napa for the birthday of a couple of the twin sons they had that were in their 30s. And I'm driving the bus, and, actually it was a Sprinter van, a Mercedes Sprinter van, and it's pretty cool, right? And they were casual, and the whole family was there, the mother and the father, and the kids, which are in their 30s. And so I'm driving down the road, and we're like probably 50% on the way there to Napa. It was like probably 50 or 60 miles away. And there's this partition that separates between the compartment where the passengers hang out and where the driver is. And sometimes there's no partition. But in this case, there was a partition with a little opening. And I was driving, just paying my attention. They were listening to music. All of a sudden, this dude's grill was completely stuck through the opening. And if you can imagine, his head was like right in the compartment in the passenger seat next to where I was sitting as I was driving. I was kind of taken back or shocked. And he was this long-haired dude with dual ponytails, and they were braided. And he looked kind of like a stoner, and he said to me, he goes, "Wow, dude." And he said, "I know, I recognize one when I see one." And I guess he thought because I had kind of scraggly, long hair, and I don't know, maybe I gave out a cool vibe. I hope I do. He was asking me, would it be okay if, and I was like, what is he talking about? And then I kind of figured it out. The dude wanted to frickin' bake in the back. With his parents there. He basically wanted to fire up a freaking spleef and bake back there. And I was saying to him, "Oh, wow, actually, dude, I don't even drink. I don't smoke. I don't drink. It's been like 26 years." And we're having this strange conversation while I'm driving down the road. And it was kind of, I don't know, typical of the surprise things that happen when you're rolling in a limousine, right? And then he looks at the dash right above the stereo in the front part where I'm sitting, and it said "no smoking." And he goes, "Oh man, dude, I guess that answers my own question." So I didn't really have to turn him down except say anything, but it was just, I want to give you the picture. It's like the biggest part of it was like the dude sticking his whole dome and his grill out into my no-fly zone, as I like to call it, where it's safe in there for me, and I'm just driving. And if you can imagine somebody sticking their head through the toilet seat bowl, right, and just showing up in your world. So that's how that run began. It turned out to be pretty good. One of the little capers that I checked out. On the other side, the mellow side, one of the really cool and beautiful things about going to Napa is how incredibly beautiful, especially now where there's been all this rain up in Napa and Sonoma County, and it's so green, and it's just like God's playground. It's so beautiful. And of course, all the wineries build up all these fancy wineries, and they're nestled in, the green and the mountains and just the vineyards and everything. It's really such an epic testimony to nature and to God and the whole creation. And then you have these big name wineries that are dotted up and down the areas. And one of the main thoroughfares in Napa, and people don't know this, Napa County, well, people know it, but a lot of times when they call and they're booking jobs, and I'm trying to put things in order about the wineries and how they fit and the distances between them. Napa is 28 miles long, Napa County. So if you say, "Oh, we're going on a wine tour and we're going to Napa," well, okay, give me an idea of some of the wineries you have so I can see how they fit time-wise and drive-wise. And you don't want to be going like all the way to the end of Calistoga and then back to Rutherford and then up to St. Helena and back to Napa. You want to run in kind of an area. And so this one crew I went with, and they were from Chicago, people like in their 30s, around their young people, and I picked them up in another Sprinter bus, and they wanted to go to Mondavi, Robert Mondavi, which is a big corporate name, let's face it. But most player limo drivers, they're not going to get excited to go to places like Mondavi, or Sterling or the Castle or these places, because they're kind of like corporate spots. And of the hundreds of wineries up there, if you come all the way from out of state, there's so many family wineries and just boutique wineries and really neat places that you may not know about, that with the help of people that are work there, like drivers, we could help you get into those spots. But they get drawn to these things, and Mondavi has a great tour and stuff, and so I took them over there, and they were there for like an hour and a half. And when I came back a little bit early, I talked to this lady named Wendy, who worked there's an area where they sign people up for the tours. If you're going for a tasting, that's a different area, so they just go over there. But this lady, Wendy, really gave me a lot of information about Mondavis, because Robert Mondavi, who passed away like in his 90s, not too many years ago, and his wife passed away relatively recently. And their brand name is not even owned by the Mondavi family. It's owned by this big corporation called Constellation, which owns liquors and other wineries. And she really gave me the background on the whole Mondavi family. And I'm interested in the history of some of that stuff, because I don't drink, and I'm not going out there to just bash and get just to taste a wine. The whole history and the scene of Napa Valley is really quite interesting in how it all developed. And so she told me interesting things about the early wineries when it was built in the area, and there was places like the Christian Brothers. And I remember people asking me about the Christian Brothers, but they're not up there anymore. And she told me that actually where the Christian Brothers used to be located up in St. Helena is now the location of another kind of iconic Napa place called the Culinary Institute, where they train chefs. And it's these really neat old school buildings which they converted from this old winery that was the Christian Brothers. And then she told me how Mondavi got started, and Robert Mondavi, and that he met his wife Marguerite, who passed away recently too. He met her while she was working at the family winery that they had. Before he founded Robert Mondavi Winery, the family had a winery, and he was involved with his brothers and I think Peter Mondavi. And then they had kind of a falling out, and they went different ways, and Robert Mondavi founded his own empire in a sense. But he actually met his wife, who was working at the family winery. And I thought that was pretty cool. And, a lot of people say, oh, Mondavi, right across the street from Mondavi Winery is Opus One, which is this famous kind of iconic Illuminati-looking place, and is owned by really the Rothschilds and Robert Mondavi. So to me, it's really sleek grounds. They serve this red wine, really high-end buildings, and it's like it's underground. You don't know if they got like strange underground chambers over there. But she hit me to the story there about Robert Mondavi and one of the Rothschilds, and that's old school European bloodlines. And if you're freaked out and going into the Illuminati stuff, those characters look like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting, learning something about the wineries, and that was kind of a pretty good troll for me. So a shout out to Wendy. Another run that I went on, and I don't like to do, I'm like a wine tour specialist, so I have my own wine tours that I do with people in private cars, or they rent vans and they hire me to drive them. And that's different from getting a limo or a small bus or a Sprinter van or something from a limo company, or working directly for a limo company and going with their clients. But sometimes I do that, and limo companies hire me, and if the arrangement is right, it'll work for both of us. It's cool. But you don't know the clients, When people are calling me up directly and they're from referrals, I know them, and there's this relationship, and they're already kind of bought into my energy, and I can kind of know something about them. And to me, that's a better way. The unknown part is really kind of like the unknown. And sometimes, especially on a Saturday, I'll work for one of these limo companies, and they'll book me for a run during the day in a small kind of limo bus that maybe fits up to 25, 28 people, which is a big crew for me. Anything over 10 is really, that's a lot to manage. And so I did one of these runs, and then at the end of the day, like 5, they booked a double, which means I had to go and get in a hurry, get that done, drop those people off, and bolt to like another area of the San Francisco Bay Area, in this case like the East Bay. And I've told them I do not want to do any prom runs for you. Dealing with young people is really not my scene. They're underage, and the foul music they listen to, and really they're just, you can understand being an adult chaperone, but I don't really want to get involved with the kids, because there's just too many people that will rat you out or have issues, and they want to do all these things and there's nowhere to take kids, really. They can't get into clubs. They can't, unless they're going to a restaurant or something, and there's all this responsibility for them. And then they want to get crazy sometimes and do things. And so I tell the limo companies, don't set me on any of those runs. And surprisingly, they said, oh, this isn't a prom run. And I looked at the schedule, the contract, and it was like 12 or 13 kids in a Sprinter van again. Or no, actually, we went out there in this mini bus, and they wanted a Sprinter van, and they when we showed up there, I did my best to hurry up and clean up the vehicle, right, because the vehicle was still kind of trashed from the adults, quote unquote, that went out for the wine tour run, and I did my best to sweep it up and clean it up and wipe off spilled wine or booze or whatever on the seats. And I'm pulling up there, and it was like at the last second, I barely got there on time. And I even had to run into the house where the dad of one of these 16-year-old kids, and they were all 16, was there, and he let me go in the house. And I was trying to run back out to double check the bus to make sure it was clean and swept and everything, and they were all in a hurry to get in there, right? And I was kind of having to hold them back. Okay, guys, just give me a couple of minutes. And I was glad that I did, because as I walked back into this limo bus, there's like a 25 passenger or something, and I opened up the door, I heard something rattling around, and out come from the bus down through the steps, which they step up into, were like beer cans, right? And I was going, oh man, that's not sending the right message, right? When you got beer cans spilling out already from the first run, and we're supposed to make sure that these young people don't drink or do any drugs, and we have to actually give them this little talk. And so there I was. It was kind of ghetto. The cans were flying out, and the people were already lining up outside the bus or whatever, and I had to like kind of catch them and throw them in the trash without them seeing. And you don't want the parents to feel, or the group to feel like that the bus just came from a run and it wasn't quite prepared for them. But that's how they do it. Limo companies try and line this up one after another. And so that created a little bit of hijinks there. This is turning into a whole synopsis of the limo life, in a sense. And I want to say to people that sometimes, even to do wine tours, I got to get up like at 5:30 in the morning, because sometimes I travel from one point, which is 20 or 30 miles away from where the limo yard is, where the bus is, and then you got to get the vehicle, and then you got to travel to a completely other destination, and sometimes all that has to happen before 9 o'clock. So I literally am like leaving the condominium sometimes where I stay at my cousin Gordo's and exiting down the elevator, and I'm completely dressed, right? I got my tie on and my slacks and my cowboy boots and my hat and my signature stuff and my vest, and I'm dialed in, and it's not even, the light isn't even out yet. It seems just weird to be like going on a wine tour run and you're getting up before the sun is even up. But that's the way it is, and especially if it's like a Saturday or a Friday, Saturday or Sunday, and you're out there and you're getting on the road. And I'm trying to get in my groove, and that's why I call myself the Limo Mystic, because I kind of tune into this energy and try and get my chi right, my energy right, get focused, maybe do some spiritual work, some mantras, little prayer energy. And I'm out there all alone because the traffic hasn't hit yet, right? And I noticed that as people are scurrying to work, who's out there? Well, there's the Pepsi truck, right? There's the Pepsi truck, and they're ready out to get their sugar water in the convenience stores and the Walmarts and all that stuff, and get that all lined up. And then there's the Frito-Lay man over there, and he's got his little outfit on, and he's delivering his product of GMO foods. And I like Fritos. I haven't eaten them for a while though because of GMOs, but and then there's me. There's cats like me. There's the limo man, right? And I really kind of take on that calling that I'm going to go out there, and part of my goal is to deliver good energy and to be on top of my game, and to be able to like help bring that group or that crew together and get them to the places they are safely and help them have fun and yet have the right kind of boundaries. So you really got to get your game focused, and it's kind of good sometimes when I'm out there and I feel like you're a little limo angel, you're ready to do your thing and you're tuning into the universal force and you're ready to drive it home. So I kind of get off on that whole preparation in a sense, and I got to tell you this other little story. So another run that I'm also at, which was in Napa, actually in St. Helena, I'm picking up this. It was really the same group that I had taken this one day, these people from Chicago, young people, and they chose to go to this winery that I had never heard of, and they had a restaurant there, and we went there, and it was really a classy place. And I noticed that, wow, this might be a good group place to take a group to before, and I'll show you a couple of pictures of it. And it's called Brasswood, and it looked kind of high end too. So not everybody's kind of ready for that. You'd have to spend some time in the little restaurant there and be able to allocate that from your day. But as we're there, there's these buses. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4 buses from this huge limo company that's based in Napa, and they're delivering these people, like 50 people per bus, so it's like 200 people, and they rented out this whole facility, and they had kind of an event going on there, and I actually know what the company was, and they were bringing in all their clients or their vendors who sold their products from all over the country. And so I was just trolling in the parking lot, waiting for my clients who I dropped off at a restaurant that was out in front, and I started talking to them, and I ran into a couple that was from Tennessee, and they had the drawl and everything, and I'm always trying to, get some intel from people and learn from what they're about, what they know about Napa. And they were telling me that they were from this town. And I said, hey, for some reason, have you ever heard of Summertown, Tennessee? And the girl says, no. But then the guy goes, yeah, he did. And the reason why I know about Summertown is because in one of my past incarnations, I learned about this famous commune called the Farm, which was based in Summertown, Tennessee. And it was this crazy, wild, cool story about this guy named Stephen Gaskin, and this woman became his wife named Ina Mae Gaskin, who became this famous midwife where they delivered children naturally at the farm. And they literally got on the road from San Francisco in all these buses back, I guess, I think in the late 60s or early 70s. And they traveled around in this whole thing, and they decided over the country that they wanted to settle and create a community. And the place, they couldn't afford California and other places, and they wound up all the way near Summertown, Tennessee. So I started asking the guy, have you ever heard about the Farm or this commune or Stephen Gaskin? And he said, no, man. So I tried to give him a little spin from it, and it kind of triggered me to that whole cycle. Now I'm going to put some pictures here in this video about the Farm, and later on I want to do a story really about 4 communes that I've lived in, because I've lived in the communal lifestyle, and this was one of the famous epic ones, and it's really kind of off the path from the Limo Mystic, but it's not, because it's mystical and it's kind of cool. And I got one last story to share with you. Maybe I should apologize, this is turning out to be a long download, but these capers, they wind through all over the place. And so one night I was on this crew, and it was one of those two in a days. I did a wine tour in the day, and the second part of the day, this limo company hired me to go pick up a bunch of Hispanic people in Concord, California, and take them all the way up to Lodi, California, which they had this concert for this. I'm not certain what it actually means, La Banda or something. It's a group of bands that comes together, Hispanic bands, and they're all Hispanic people, and they were nice, well dressed, they were hard drinkers. They had to stop. It was like 60 miles from where the pickup was to where the event was at this concert. And I took them up there, and we had to stop like 3 or 4 times to go to the bathroom because all that drinking. And they listened to their music the whole way, and they were just pumped and ready to go. And when we got up there, it was slow approaching the actual venue because a lot of cars were there, and they were getting impatient. And it's like, you know what? I can just pull over here and let you out, and you can walk, right? It wasn't that far. And they agreed to do that. So then I went and I parked. I quote unquote staged my bus, this limo bus, in this parking lot, and we're just waiting it out. And at some point, these young people were right in front of me in a late model Honda, just a couple, and they looked like they had some sort of trouble and with their car. And I got out. At first I just looked at it, and they'll figure it out. And then they were there for a while, and apparently they got a flat tire in the parking lot, and they were having trouble getting their wheel off from the tire from the car and lifting up the jack. And the Limo Mystic, I mean, what do I really know about fixing cars? I guess I know something because I've been around a little longer. But they were kind of a sweet young people, and the one guy was like swinging his arms in the air like he was imaginary, doing like some karate move or tai chi or boxing or something. And it turned out that the dude was pretty cool, and the girlfriend was there, and she was pretty cool, and they had a baby seat, and I started talking to them. We connected, and I just felt this kind of connection with them, and then I told them, hey, come on up to the wine tours, and I'll show you something, or if you need some help. And the guy goes, he gave me his name, he goes, yeah, I'm Chris Avila, I'm an MMA fighter. And I know what MMA is, mixed martial arts, because I'm all into that in a sense, Conor McGregor. And actually, Nate Diaz is from that area, and he's known. And so this guy was telling me who's a famous fighter that fought Conor McGregor, and he won one, which was a big upset, and then he lost the other one. And so they got this big rivalry. And so this kid would look like he was in his 20s, kind of a skinny guy, right? Nice face, but wasn't really big. And so he gave me his name, and a few days after that, or a week or so, I decided, let me see if I remember his name. And I went out and looked him up on YouTube, and sure enough, he's a pro MMA fighter. And I watched a couple of his matches, and he, it's not like he has a perfect record, but he really is a wiry dude. I was watching him, and he was pounding away in there, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm going to put a couple pictures on him, Chris Avila, give him a shout out. And it just kind of show that even the old G's, sometimes we cross paths with people for all different reasons, and I got to help them fix their tire. And I felt this little inclination afterward to pray for them. They had this, like, the baby, and I wasn't sure if he was the father or the girlfriend or what, but to send them some sort of spiritual energy. And so I did. I think I made kind of a prayer for that. And then I looked at Chris, and I looked at his videos, and I just thought, nice thing, another trippy thing that you can run into in the trails of the Limo Mystic. So this is Sir Ron. I'm bouncing out. 22 minutes of download. I hope you can take it in parts, but wanted to give you a little picture. I'll show you some wineries, some visuals of the places we go, and I hope that you are keeping yourself in a high vibration no matter what's rolling, no matter what's trolling. Everything's going to shift and change, so learn to kind of go with the flow. Okay, I'm out from the Limo Mystic, and we'll be back at you again. Ciao.